Hi, 5th grade. This is Mrs. Kyoka with your flipped math lesson for today, 7-1. Today's objective: I can mentally multiply decimals by 10, 100, or 1,000. So here is our practice problem. Kiwi wants to cut a cloth into 10 strips. All the strips should be exactly the same size. How wide will each strip be? So let's find out what it's asking us to do. It wants us to know or tell them how wide each strip will be if we break this apart into 10 equal strips. So the important information that we have is that there are 10 strips that we're going to be cutting this cloth into. The total length of the cloth is 89.5 centimeters. Our operation then, if we're going to be putting it into 10 different strips, then we're dividing it. Okay? So here is my number sentence or my equation, 89.5 divided by 10, and we've got to find out what that equals. So I'm going to keep some things in mind. The first thing we want to keep in mind is that a number divided by 10 is going to be less than the number that you're dividing. So if we're dividing it by 10, then our answer is going to be smaller than 89.5. The dividend is always going to be the largest number. The quotient is always going to be smaller than the dividend. Okay? And moving the decimal point to the left decreases the number's value. I want to show you that. So here we have 89.5, and if we take that number or that decimal and we move it, if I move it to the left, now I have 8.95, right? Which is smaller than 89.5. If I move it to the left again, I have 0.895. It's smaller. So every time I move that decimal to the left, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The number is getting smaller. The other thing to keep in mind is that dividing by 10 gives the same result as moving the decimal one place to the left. So when we divide it by 10, notice it has 1 0 there, we're going to be moving that decimal point one place to the left, which will make this number become smaller, okay, because it changed from 89 to 8. Changed from 89.5 to 8.95, okay? So we're just going to move that decimal point one place to the left when we divide it by 10. It's the opposite of what we did when we did multiplication. So our answer is going to be 8.95. Okay? Some other things to keep in mind. 10 is the same as 10 to the first power. 100 is the same as 10 to the second power. 1,000 is the same as 10 to the third power. This should look really familiar. This is the same thing we did when we were multiplying. We look at how many zeros there are, and that tells us what the power is. Okay, there are 2 zeros, so we're going to be, it's 10 to the power of 2. There are 3 zeros, we have 10 to the power of 3. That's going to tell us how many places to move that decimal point. Remember, when we're dividing, that means we're going to move that decimal to the left. Okay? Division means moving it to the left. So if I have 12.5 divided by 10, I'm going to move that decimal to the left one place because I have 1 0. So I'm going to move it to the one place to the left. So it's going to become 1.25. If I'm dividing it by 100, I have 2 zeros. So I'm going to move my decimal point 2 places to the left. And now my number is 0.125, or 125 thousandths. Okay? Now I'm going to be dividing 12.5 divided by 1,000. There are 3 zeros. I'm going to move that decimal point 3 places over. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh. There's no number there. But I know that there's actually a 0 there. Okay? So my answer now is 0.0125. Okay? It's the exact opposite of what we did in multiplication. We're just moving that decimal point over to the left. Okay, so for our very beginning question, 89.5 divided by 10 is, move that decimal point one place to the left because we have 1 0. The answer is 8.95. Let's practice some. 370 divided by 10. Okay, we're going to take where the decimal point is. The decimal point is really at the end. Even though you didn't see it, it's there. It's at the end. We're going to move it one place to the left because there's 1 0 in 10. And our answer is 37.0, which is the same as 37. Okay? 37.0 is the same as 37. And just take that 0 off because there's nothing there. 370 divided by 100. There are 2 zeros in 100. That means we're going to move that decimal point over 2 places. Okay, and then my answer turns out to be 3.7. Sorry, my decimal point got messy. Okay, let's try another one. 126.4 divided by 10 to the second power, which is the same as 100. Okay, that's the same thing. 100 is the same as 10 to the second power. There are 2 zeros, or I could see that it's the power of 2. So I'm going to move that decimal point over 2 places. My answer is going to be 1.264. Whoops. Okay. If I divide 126.4 divided by 10 to the third power, which is the same as 1,000, I see there's a power of 3 or 3 zeros after the 1. I'm going to move that decimal point over 3 places. 1, 2, 3. My answer is going to be 0.1264. Okay. 684.5 divided by 1,000. There are 3 zeros. So move that decimal point over 1, 2, 3 places. And my answer is going to be 0.6845. Now it's your turn. Okay, you're going to do the problems, pause the video, then check it, see if you got it right. Number 1, 72.5 divided by 10 to the first power. Okay, should have moved that decimal point over 1 place because there's 1 0. So move it over 1 place, and your answer would be 7.25. Number 2, 28.14 divided by 100. Okay, there are 2 zeros. That means we're going to move that decimal place over 2 places. And our answer becomes 0.2814. Number 3, 42.5 divided by 10 to the third power. Okay, 10 to the third power tells us we're going to move that decimal point 3 places. So move it 1, 2, 3, and there's no number there, so that tells me there really is a 0. So my answer is 0.0425. Alright guys, you're finished for today. Hopefully that was not too tricky for you. Don't forget to get your homework signed by your parents so you can get a pride point for it by bringing it to school. Show me that you are showing determination to get your homework done every night. Thanks, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.